Dear students, I am Dr. Darsana. I am working as Assistant Professor in the Department of History. And in this module, we are going to talk about principles and methods of archaeology. And I am going to give you a lecture on a small topic, Introduction to Archaeology. So to start with, we will start with learning objectives. What are the objectives of learning this particular module? Of course, to know the definition of archaeology and also the aims and goals. Along with that, we are also going to see about archaeology's relationship with ethnography, geology and anthropology, and we are going to touch upon salvage archaeology also. So now comes the crucial question, what is archaeology? To define archaeology, we all say it is a scientific study involving human material remains. So you can see a lot of pictures here. So they all indicate pottery. This is a gold ornaments from Lothal, and you have a Dholavira, a monument, and then you have stone anchors, you have iron tools, and then we have a burials. So we have all these kinds of human remains. We call that as material evidence. Based on this, we study archaeology. So that way, archaeology is a study of human past through material remains. So when it comes to the real definition, the word archaeology comes from two terms, archaeos and eology or logos. Archaeo means past or ancient, and logos means science. So it is a scientific study of the past. And when it comes to important definitions, so I am going to give you three important personalities definitions on archaeology. The first one is by Graham Clark, in which he says archaeology seeks to discover how we became human beings. So that is what archaeology talks about, because from ape we have evolved into modern humans, Homo sapiens. How did we do that? And with minds and souls, even before we learned to write. So the minute we started writing, it became history. So before historical period, the main source is archaeology. So that is what the main aim of, or the main definition of archaeology is. So then Mortimer Wheeler, the famous Director General of ASI at the time of our independence, he gives a very succinct definition about archaeology. Archaeology is digging up not things but people. So it talks only about people. It's not just the material evidence, the people behind the artifacts we are going to talk about. So then Colin Renfrew and Paul Bond talks about archaeology as both a physical activity, because we have to spend time on the field, as well as analysis in the laboratory. So it is both. It's an intellectual pursuit as well as a physical activity. So when it comes to the aims, so what are the major aims? Of course, to study the past. So that's the first aim. And to understand human behavior and cognition. Cognition is our thinking skills, how well we developed as human beings. So that is also part of the aim of archaeology. And to reconstruct the past. Based on the material evidence, how are we going to reconstruct the past, their society, their technology, their economic conditions, all that we are trying to reconstruct. So to put it very simply, to know what happened, where did it happen, and when did it happen. So that is also one of the major aims of archaeology. Apart from that, we are also interested to know why it had happened and how it had happened. So when it comes to the scope, we have two major scopes. One is temporal, the other one is spatial. So when it comes to temporal, it is a time, how long this particular subject covers the time period. It starts from the human evolution in the earth, like from the first time the humans came to the earth till yesterday. That was archaeology. We have even garbage archaeology, that study about how we dispose the garbage. So there is, the time limit is like vast. So similarly, space. Everywhere in the world we are doing archaeology, whether it's in Africa or in Europe or in America or in India. So the spatial scope is also immense. So then we will talk about the second major part, archaeology and its related disciplines. So in that we are going to talk first with ethnoarchaeology. So ethnoarchaeology is actually, ethnography is a study of tribals, the races, the human races. So in that, how are we going to link archaeology with ethnography is what ethnoarchaeology is about. And it talks about archaeological data. To understand the archaeological data, we refer to the ethnographic data. So I am giving you three case studies. One is the Paleolithic cultures and Irulas. So based on that study, Irulas are the tribes living in the northern part of Tamil Nadu. So based on that study, we try to recreate how the Paleolithic people would have hunted, because Irulas still use stone tools and they still hunt animals with stone tools. So we are able to correlate these two evidences. Similarly, Neolithic culture and tribal houses. At a place called Tekkalakota in Karnataka, they found post holes in an excavated site, and when archaeologists were wondering what it signifies, so then they discovered, these post holes are used by the tribes living in that area to build staff or the poles around which they will have a thatched roof, and then they will cover it with the conical roof. So this is something like a settlement. So we come to know like how these post wells were used even in the past. And the last one is Chalcolithic culture and Dhangas of Maharashtra. Dhangas are the tribes, you can see the pictures. So this is like Dhangas are the tribes in Maharashtra, pastoral tribes, semi-nomadic in nature. They migrate from the interior part of Maharashtra to the coastal during monsoon, and we are able to trace the pattern. So people have worked on how the Dhangas are moving from one place to another and what kind of settlements they were using at the time of migration. So similarly, you can see the post hole, which I told you earlier. So that was in the picture here. Okay. So the second discipline with which archaeology is closely related is geoarchaeology, that is with geology, archaeology and geology. So geology talks about the study of earth. So geo means earth, geology is a scientific study of earth. Okay. So what are the things archaeologists use in geology are study of soil and sediments. And when it comes to the study of rocks, so we have three types of rocks like igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic. And then we also, most important contribution of geology to archaeology is the study of layers or stratigraphy. So we will see one by one. Okay. So when it comes to the rock types, why should we know the rock types? So people will ask this question. So the thing to know, the simple thing is to know the raw material. How did they use this particular raw material? From where they procure this raw material? So I have given you three examples. The first one is Tanjavur Rajarajeshwaram temple, popularly known as Big Temple. This was built with granite rock taken from Pudukkottai. So to give an interesting information, Tanjavur is a plain region with absolutely no hills, but still they use this rock which they have taken from Pudukkottai region almost 50 kilometers and then brought the stones to Tanjavur. So that tells you the technological advancement 1000 years back. And the second one is, it's a beautiful site called Bhimbetka, that is a prehistoric site. This is with the rock painting. This is a sedimentary rock. Where we also find sedimentary rocks, we will also find fossil remains also. So that way this rock formation is essential for the study of human past. And the third one is the most important world famous Taj Mahal. This is built of marble, which is a metamorphic rock of limestone. So knowing these rock types are very, very essential to get a better idea about how did they use technology. So then I told you about the study of layers or stratigraphy. Study of layer means study of strata, or there is a geologist called William Smith. He introduced this particular idea of how the layers are formed in the earth. So for example, this particular picture tells you this is a present day, the modern day, that's called humus, where we stand on the ground, and this is a Harappan seal which is found in 3rd millennium BCE, around 3000 years back. So the oldest layer forms at the end, and then all the subsequent layers they form on top of that. We call that as superimposition. Okay, we call that as superimposition. So you can see various views of a trench with their stratigraphy. This is from a site called Sishubalgarh in Orissa. So where you can see the trenches with sections, so or the stratigraphy that tells you where did they live, how did they live, what kind of time period these guys were occupying that particular site. Okay. So then comes the third main feature or the relationship with other subject is anthropology. So anthropology is actually study of humans. Anthro means human. Geology or logos means scientific study of humans, the present human. So this is very useful because in archaeology we have paleoanthropology. We study about the human evolution from the past and how it is how it played a very significant role in the modern day also. Okay. Especially we are interested as archaeologists, we are interested to know the tool production, cranium capacity of the human beings. So important milestone to give in a simple nutshell. So these are all the important landmarks or a milestone in human evolution. We started as apes, we call that as Australopithecus africanus, started from Africa. Then we migrated to various parts of the world. Then we become Homo habilis. So this particular species have the ability to make stone tools. So we call them Homo habilis. Homo means humans. So for the first time humans have appeared. Then we have Homo erectus, another significant milestone in human history, because till that time we were walking on the four legs, and right now we started standing straight or erect. That is why we call that bird Homo erectus. We become bipedals. We are walking on the two legs and our vertebra become straight. And what we call right now, so we are all, you and I, everyone, we are all actually Homo sapien sapien. That means wise men. We have a better cranial capacity, we have better cognition skill, we started using fire, stone tools, then we also developed the language. So all the technological development that you see, it is all possible because we are all Homo sapien sapiens. Okay, so these are all the evidences from sites in India. This is Hathnora, from which we are finding a skull of a human being. Some people call it as Homo erectus, while some say it is Homo sapiens. And you can see the stone tools used by our prehistoric people, that is from Himachal Pradesh. Okay. So the final part of the lesson is all about salvage archaeology, a new technology that is introduced in India in mid-1950s. So what is salvage archaeology? A site may get threatened because of natural or because of human reasons. It could be flood, or it could be volcanic eruption, or it could be cyclone, various reasons, or even terrorist activities, or it could be war. So during that time, they try to salvage or save the site as much as possible and then preserve it for future generation. Okay. So it is very interesting to note, India is one of the earlier countries in the world to adopt this salvage archaeology. So we are going to talk about one important case study, that is Nagarjunakonda in Andhra region. So here a dam was built across the river Krishna, and the dam was about to actually submerge the entire site of Nagarjunakonda with all its Buddhist monuments. It is known for, the site was in use for almost 2000 years. The Buddhist monuments were built by the Ikshvakus, who lived around 2nd, 3rd century CE. So that site got submerged, and the government of India decided to preserve the site as much as possible and go for salvage archaeological excavation between 1954 and 1960, and whatever they could get it from the excavation, they placed everything on top of the hill and they created an open air museum. So you can see this particular image of Buddha. So this is the original thing taken from the site, which is right now submerged, and then placed it on top of the hill. It is like an open air museum. You can see other buildings from the Nagarjunakonda site, and you can see a Krishna river, the water dam, Nagarjuna Sagar. So that is submerging the site. The site is under the water, but all the materials have been saved. Okay. To give a summary, like what did we discuss so far? So this particular unit describes about the definition, and we also saw about aims and scope of archaeology. Then it talks about the correlation between archaeology and anthropology and geology, as well as ethnography. And then finally we touched upon salvage archaeology also. So when it comes to the important questions or assessment pattern, so we can sort of expect these kind of questions, like define the term and aims and scope of archaeology, and the use of stratigraphy or the importance of stratigraphy in the study of archaeology, as well as ethnography with suitable examples, which we already discussed in the class. And then also Nagarjunakonda is thus classic example for salvage archaeology, not only in India but all over the world. So one can discuss more on that also. And geology and archaeology are closely related. One can even do the analysis of that particular statement. Okay, so I've shown you a lot of pictures in this particular module. So for all that, I'm thankful to many scholars. I would like to acknowledge them: Dr. Rabi Mohanty, Dr. Sheena Panja, Dr. Selva Kumar, Dr. V. N. Prabhakar, Dr. Par Chauhan, and Dr. Kumaran. They are magnanimous enough to give these photographs. And when it comes to references, the best books to read, definitely by K. Padaya, and then Kenyon, and of course Renfrew and Palborn, where they have written about archaeology theories and methods in a very friendly manner. And then when it comes to Indian scholars, we have Dr. Raman's and Dr. Rajan's book on archaeology. I hope the class was very useful for you. Thank you.